You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, check out chrisblair.com. Hey everybody, here's another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. I'm your host, Chris Blair, and in this week's episode, I sat down with a very special guest and good friend, Emily Shackelton. Emily grew up in a very small town in Minnesota, surrounded by music. She was encouraged from a young age to pursue what she loves and quickly found out that was songwriting. In this episode, Emily tells us the stories about how she doubted her career in Nashville many times, but every time she did, she turned to her faith and the right doors were open for her. After moving to Nashville, Emily entered into a BMI songwriting competition and won, and that opened so many doors. She talks about all of that. She also talks about the stories behind the songs that she wrote for the ABC hit television show Nashville, how she started a professional relationship with Liz Rose, which, by the way, if you don't know Liz, go look her up. She is amazing. Lots of success in the music business. And then Emily also talks about how one of the first friends that she met when she moved to Nashville was Carly Pearce, and how they have written so many songs together, both of which was their first number ones. She's also written songs for Sara Evans, David Cook, Seth Ennis, Cassadee Pope, Jana Kramer, and many more. And when I asked Emily what advice she would give her 8-year-old self today, knowing what she knows now, she said, keep going and trust God. So cool and so true. Emily has a lot of exciting things happening right now with her own songs as well. She's just released 2 songs called Beloved and Our God Sustains, so go check those out. They're so amazing. She also has many shows coming up and a lot more cuts on other artists to stay tuned for. So it's been a pleasure sitting down with her. As always, remember to subscribe, follow, like, and support this podcast by hitting all of those buttons wherever you listen and help us spread the word so your friends can hear. We love sitting down with new songwriters and artists every week, and the more you spread the word, the more that we can keep doing this. So we really appreciate the support. Again, it was great to sit down with Emily. Let's get to it. This is Emily Shackelton. Hey everybody, here's another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. I'm Chris Blair, and today I am here with my friend Emily Shackelton. Emily, how are you?
I'm good, Chris. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad that we are able to do this. We've tried for a while, and I was so busy, and you've been traveling and doing so much with music that we're going to get to and talk about. It's been incredible. But yeah, I'm just so excited to share your story with everybody today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. The listening room is one of my favorite places in Nashville, and I'm so grateful for the way y'all have been a platform for songwriters. So
thank you so much. Well, let's just kind of go, I always kind of start from the beginning. So you're from Minnesota.
I am.
Walk me through, how you kind of got into music in Minnesota and what led you to Nashville.
Yeah, I grew up in a house just full of music. My parents are both, beautiful singers. My dad taught himself guitar growing up, and he was the wedding singer growing up. And I started singing duets with him in churches and weddings all over. And we were just kind of that family. It was a town of 900 people, so lots of wintertime to dive into my parents' record collection and write songs in my notebooks at school while I should have been doing my math lessons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I fell in love with folk music early on. I fell in love with Dan Fogelberg, Carole King, Carly Simon, and then Elton John and Billy Joel, and then on to the angsty singer-songwriter girls, Fiona Apple, Sarah McLachlan, and then discovered that 90s country diva moment and just fell hard for the Dixie Chicks and Faith Hill and Sara Evans and just all these amazing moments.
Yeah.
I really didn't know Nashville existed until then, and still didn't really see it as a place that I would ever end up. Just because I saw myself more in that singer-songwriter lane, and I didn't grow up speaking the country lingo necessarily. Although my town of Biwabik is very much a country song town. It's
Yeah.
got one stoplight. They actually ripped it out and just put in the blinking light recently because we've gone down in population from 900, and we've got the one church, the one grocery store, and the 8 bars. So it's begging for a country song. But I was playing music on a church ministry tour in high school, and I met this boy, and I was crushing on him hard, and he was talking about this place called Berkeley. And I had never heard of Berkeley. I'd been accepted to a college in Minnesota. My parents felt, settled in that decision and good about having their daughter stay in her home state.
Yeah.
And I decided I was going to follow that boy out to Berkeley. And there we were 3 months later at Berkeley. And I fell in love with Boston. I fell in love with that school. I fell in love with living in a city for the first time, being surrounded with music, finally feeling like I'd found my people after feeling just like an outsider my whole life. And it was our glory days. I fell in love with that boy, and we got married and decided that we were going to move to Nashville after 3 years because all of my songwriting professors were saying that my songwriting should be there. And by the way, you could be a songwriter there. And I'd always thought that everyone wrote their own songs, and if you wanted to write songs, that then you sang them. And I loved performing. I grew up performing, and that's always been a part of who I am. But suddenly it felt like, I can have a family. I can write songs that I could get paid for. And there's more people like at Berkeley where I could feel like there's a community. And so Caleb and I moved there. I moved into our apartment sight unseen from our honeymoon. He'd gone and picked it out for us. And right before we moved there, I had entered the BMI songwriting contest, the John Lennon competition. And I ended up winning by the grace of God, and BMI really opened its doors to me. And that was just such a turning point for me as far as coming to town knowing nobody, and then coming to town knowing somebody. And that somebody was Beth Mason at the time, now Beth Laird.
Yeah.
And she's such a power player in Nashville. And at the time she was getting her start as a writer rep at BMI. And so I got to come and play her 3 songs, the 3 songs that I felt comfortable playing in public at the time. And she listened and said, "These are good. Come back when you've written 3 more."
Yeah.
And so I spent, 3 or 4 months trying to write enough songs to find 3 more songs that I felt proud enough of to play in public. And I went back and I played her the songs, and she was like, "Okay, I'm going to set you up with a few publishing meetings." And I was so excited. It felt like all my dreams are coming true. And I learned very quickly that this is a town full of rejection and a lot of no's before you'd ever get to the yes. And that was definitely a baptism by fire into that part of Nashville. But I made a lot of really neat relationships, started getting set up on some co-writes, and was really tired of working 3 part-time jobs to try to make ends meet. Same with my husband. And finally, I was kind of getting sick of it. I went to a publishing meeting that really hurt my heart. And I got home and I wrote myself this little song trying to make myself feel better, want to stick around. And I played it for a friend, and they made me enter it into the American Idol was doing a songwriting contest at the time. So I entered it into that contest, and David Cook, who ended up winning that season or coming in, he won. He sang my song on the last episode. And once again, that was just a grace of God. turning point, and I was able to sign my first publishing deal 11 months into moving to Nashville, which I don't take for granted.
Yeah.
And got to quit all my day jobs and focus in on writing songs. And then Caleb could really focus in on finding his dream job as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, they call Nashville a 10-year town, but everything was lining up. So I decided it was going to be a 2-year town for me. And, you know, at the end of those 2 years at Bug, they had been bought by BMG recently, and they dropped me. And that is just another lesson you learn one way or another in Nashville is you're, at the end of the day, you're your biggest advocate and your fuel, the only one that's going to keep you going. You and your faith. For me, my faith in God, for sure. But no one was going to be in my corner if I wasn't. So I spent a good 3 days on the couch eating Haagen-Dazs. It was good. It was good, Haagen-Dazs.
What's your flavor?
The pineapple. It's like pineapple mango. It's kind of like pina colada almost.
Yeah.
It's like really refreshing. So at the end of those 3 days, I decided that I was going to stay. It was maybe going to be a 4-year town instead. And I remembered that I had written just once with Liz Rose about a year prior. Beth had made her come to my show at Key West, my very first Key West Songwriter Festival. Liz didn't want to go to any shows. She wanted to lay out in the sun, which is exactly what I want to do when I go to Key West. We have a lot of shows to play at night, so nobody wants to go to the daytime ones. Beth asked her to go. She came. And for whatever reason, I had lost my voice. I was singing all of my songs like 5 keys lower, trying to sing them. She came up after and just told me she wanted to write. We wrote one time before I got dropped. And during that one time, she just said, "Man, I've been thinking about starting a publishing company. I wish you weren't signed. I would sign you." And that was just like a compliment at the time to me. Like I thought, oh, it's just like a little something she wanted to like put in my sails to like help me feel more comfortable in the write. Because honestly, I choked up every time I wrote with Liz for like the first 3 years. So I don't feel like I was exactly like giving her my best self just because she was, you know, the Liz Rose.
Yeah.
But I decided to call her up at the end of those 3 days and just say, "Hey, I'm joking if you were joking, but if you're serious, I'm serious if you want to start a publishing company." So she introduced me to her son, Scott Ponce, who became my plugger and champion for a lot of years. And it was the 3 of us for the first several years. And slowly she started adding in more writers who were some of my best friends. Phil Barton.
Yep.
Cameron Bedell. Allison McAnally, she's not there anymore. She works for recording studios now, doing amazing other things, but she's one of my dear friends. She was there. And Melissa Michaela, who's now expecting her first baby. Like we all grew up together in this family over the last 10 years. And it was a really lovely place to grow and just be able to write a ton of songs. We would write 2 songs, sometimes 3 songs a day. Liz would have me and a bunch of girls over to her house, and we'd drink wine and write songs at night, and just was, you know, song, cutting my teeth, like really learning the language. Just a really rich learning time. Cuts didn't come like I hoped they would, the songs that I wanted to get recorded. So didn't end up being a 4-year town as far as me getting that #1 song on the radio. And it's funny looking back now. I think like anybody, we keep like changing the bar that we're trying to raise. Like, I think young me would have been like, you got a publishing deal. That's amazing. All your dreams have come true. And then you get that publishing deal and you get a hold on, you know, maybe one of your songs will be recorded by an artist. And then they drop it and you're crying in your bathroom. And it's just like such an up and down roller coaster. And so at the end of that 4 years, I was writing a song with one of my best friends in town, Kelly Archer, and our dear friend Justin Weaver. And it was just one of those songs that was like, had a little bite to it and was kind of for us and in this town. And I just loved that song. And we found out there was this TV show called Nashville that was coming out. And they wanted to record that song. And not only were they going to use it in the first episode, but they were going to use it in all the promos and previews, commercials. So it was like, you know, great little paychecks when I wasn't getting any royalties yet, you know, that it was like really nice. And it was something to finally get to show the people back home, like, look, it's not just like, I got a publishing deal. What does that mean? Have you sold your songs? Not yet. And that's not exactly how it works.
Yeah.
You know, so finally I could be like, look, someone recorded my song. So I told all my family and friends. And the morning that the first commercial comes out, everyone's tuned in watching it. We are certain that it's going to be sung by, you know, whoever the lead good girl character is. And suddenly it's Hayden Panettiere's character who's in this little like dress and she's like shimmying at the camera at the Grand Ole Opry singing our song. And, you know, huge crowd and she's working it, but you're like, okay. And then it flips to Connie Britton's character, Raina James, and she's watching it back in her dressing room and she holds up the remote and she turns it off and she goes, can't believe people listen to that crap. My song, our song. So I learned how to laugh when things don't work out the way you think they will even after a song gets recorded. I learned how to be thankful for those little moments that are still little stepping stones in your career. That song afforded me 5 more songs on the show throughout the seasons and a lot of really sweet memories. And I still love that song so much and I play it places like here all the time. The crowd loves the story. I can own that, you know, and it's a part of my journey. And I'm just one more of those like funny God winks that keeps me humble and reminds me that I write songs that I love and not necessarily for any other reason than that, even though making the money to support my family is a joy and a gift as well.
Yeah. Gosh, I love that. I've heard a lot of these stories, but it's just to be able to share that with everybody else and just, they don't realize all of the things that happen behind the scenes and the fact that you can just own it and love it. And that's what counts.
Yeah, so, totally.
I was thinking, driving in today, I was thinking about, you might remember I did the stories behind the songs. It wasn't a podcast, but it was like years ago, 7-8 years ago, probably 9, I don't know, that I started the stories behind the songs YouTube. And I was doing like these weekly videos, just like this, except it wasn't everywhere like podcasts. My very first guest when we did that before was Carly Pearce. And it was, I'd have to go back and look, but it was like the week after or like the same month or something that Every Little Thing had just dropped. And we like had this scheduled and then it was like, oh my gosh, like I think something's going to happen. So yeah. Yes. So walk me into that relationship. I think that was just another godsend that the two of you are like best friends and you've gotten so much success since then, but let everybody know about every little thing.
Carly's been a sweet friend ever since we moved to town. I met her maybe a few years in, and we have similar stories in that she had a first chance at a record deal and a development deal, and feels like all your dreams are coming true when that happens. And then she faced getting dropped like I did and kept herself in the business by doing odd jobs, which she talks about all the time. And we wrote over the years and stayed, you know, friendly on peripheral terms, but both of our lives were going in a million different directions. She ended up on tour with Lucy Hale. I ended up having our first baby.
Yeah.
And you know, it was right before that, around year 7, that I was getting really certain that I was going to leave town because it was getting hard. And I got down on my knees one night and I prayed, asking God to either take this dream away or open a damn door.
Yeah.
And the next morning I got a phone call that Busby wanted to partner with Liz Rose and team and do a joint venture with me, publishing deal. And that changed everything for me. Busby just really changed the game for me and changed how I saw myself and changed pretty much everything for me. And our first artist that he had signed that came through the door was Carly Pearce. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And we just started creating. And the very first song we wrote is a song called You Know Where to Find Me, which is on that first record. It was her first song. She debuted once under Busby at the Grand Ole Opry. And it was the night that I first sang at the Grand Ole Opry as well in this trio. And it was this incredible moment getting to see her perform it. And my parents were there. And it's like, look, guys, I have a song on the Grand Ole Opry. But, you know, she didn't have a record deal or anything like that. And everyone was looking for that big up-tempo first single, in your face, this is who I am. Like everyone seemed to be doing when they broke into the market. And, you know, nobody feels like a kiss of death when someone's like, we should do a ballad first. And you don't even have a record deal yet. But JR from the Highway reached out to Carly and said, hey, you're the next Highway find, and it's going to be every little thing. She'll tell you she cried in her car when she heard that news because she thought it was all over. And that song ended up racing up the charts of the Highway. She got her deal with Big Machine through a DM when they heard that song. And it changed both of our lives. It was right around my daughter's first birthday when it went number 1. And it changed everything. It opened a lot of doors for me. It's been amazing watching Carly just soar since then. I've never really gotten to see someone's career just take off that way and really get to be a part of it. And felt like the sky was the limit forever and felt like it would always be that way. And then suddenly Busby got glioblastoma cancer. Yeah. Passed away 2 months later and just changed everything again.
Yeah.
And we all were kind of left. He created this really safe, warm shadow for all of us to create under and find our confidence under. And felt like we all were stepping out for the first time on our own again after feeling like we had this force on our side. Mm-hmm. And I wrote a song that's coming out on Friday about that time. My husband had a terrible accident too and survived by the grace of God. And that was the last song that Busby ever heard of mine. He passed away a week later. So yeah, it's coming out this Friday, and it means a lot to me.
What's it called?
It's called Our God Sustains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just had a song recently that you put out on August 18th called Beloved.
Yes. Yep. A couple weeks ago. Yeah, I feel like it's a really important part of my story now that I'm getting brave and sharing songs on my own. That I share my story. And a big part of that is just God seeing me through.
This episode is brought to you by Brit Skin Beauty. Located in the beautiful Indulgence Medi Spa in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Brittany is the go-to esthetician for facials, dermaplaning, microdermabrasion, waxing, lashes, and any skincare products and consultations. So many people in the music industry use her frequently, and her work speaks for itself. To schedule your next consultation or make an appointment, visit britskinbeauty.com or send an email to britskinbeauty@gmail.com.
Take me back into the writer's room for Every Little Thing and how that song came about.
I walked into Busby's little back studio that day, and he and Carly were already in there. I'm perpetually 10 minutes late. And I walk in, and Carly kind of giggles, and she goes, "I want to write a ballad today." She said it that way because she knew it was kind of like just in the writer's room in general for all the people trying to get a song on the radio. You just joke that you don't want to write a ballad because, I mean, I don't say that anymore by any means, but at the time, at the time, it was like the running joke of Nashville. And so she and Busby chuckled, and he said, "We just need something really haunting and personal for the record." And Carly's like, "Yeah, I just, I have this heartbreak and I just really want to write about it." And she started talking about it, and I sat down. I was like, I have this little idea, and I just, dun, 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 dun. And it was really just every little thing. And, I'm a big feeler.
Yeah.
And, I feel like any creative, anyone that is putting their heart and soul in something, they do remember it all and they feel it all. And it was easy for all of us to write. It poured out. Busby's an incredible musician. He was just the best. And he sat down on the piano and took us to church, and I think we wrote that song in just a little over 30 minutes. It's not a rocket science song, It's a little heartbreak ballad, and we all left with this crazy earworm in our heads, and and that happens with songs from time to time. And I'd never really had a song, do anything on the radio. So at that time, it was just an earworm.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was for other people too.
Yeah. You want to play part of it?
I would love to.
Cool. Let's do it.
The scent that you left on my pillow, the sound of your heartbeat with mine, the look in your eyes like a window, the taste of your kiss soaked in wine. Every little thing, I remember every little thing, the high, the hurt, the shine, the sting. Every little thing, I remember
Gosh, it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I've heard you play that over and over and over again, but just something about like just being in this room with nobody here was super special.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So every little thing becomes your first number one, Carly's first number one. And how was everything after that? Because you've got another great number one about heartbreak with Carly.
Yeah.
So, like, walk me through, just kind of, everything that happened after that.
It's a neat little niche that I've fallen into a lot thanks to that song and just the way that Carly's trusted me with so much of her stories. I've kind of become the sad song girl, the one that people love to come to for their ballads. I like to joke that I'm part therapist, part songwriter in the room because I help people feel safe and heard, I hope. I help them maybe make sense of things that they're thinking about and don't really know how to quite translate. And then I make it rhyme. So that became my calling card after that. And it's something that I don't take lightly. I feel like that's part of my purpose in the room as a songwriter. I think it's really easy to think that it's only about the song or it's only about, the money and the next thing and the performing, but being present with my friends and with people, I hope is something that I'll be remembered for sure.
Yeah.
I've had 10 songs recorded by Carly since then, and a bunch of others by amazing artists, Alaina, Sara Evans, Jana Kramer, Cassadee Pope, bunch more in film and TV. And I got brave and started releasing songs of my own, which has been so fun. I had a song released on Mother's Day this spring with Rita Wilson. And I have another one coming out with Lori McKenna later this fall. So it's been a really neat experience to just kind of embrace the whole love that I have for music. I think it's really easy for this town to try to compartmentalize what we all do and put us all in boxes. And it's been really freeing for me to just chase after whatever makes me feel whole. And part of that is having fun and feeling passion and telling other people's stories and getting to tell my own.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have a talent of doing that.
You're kind. And then, we wrote, first the pandemic hit.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly none of us knew what was going to happen. And Carly and I were writing on Zoom a bunch.
Yeah.
And during that time, her marriage quickly fell apart and she stepped away from something that wasn't right. And she poured her heart out in this record that is just so beautiful and moving. And she trusted me with a lot of those stories, which I'm so grateful for. And one of those was What You Didn't Do.
Yeah.
And it didn't become a single right away. We had Should Have Known Better, and then Show Me Around, which was the song we wrote for Busby. Those both went to the highway first, went number one, and then she released a beautiful song with Ashley McBride that rang the bell for her, did a lot of amazing things. And then our song finally had this chance to shine. But the funny thing is that everybody already knew the song, and it had already been streamed more than her singles that had gone number one, even though it hadn't gone to radio. And I think you know this part of the story, but it's because we performed it at the listening room the week we wrote it. Do you know that?
No.
So we wrote it with Ashley Gorley, who's had 67 number ones now.
Yeah.
He's incredible. And that week we were playing the listening room together a few days later, and she was like, "You want to play it?" And I was like, "I mean, we can. Is the label okay with that?" She hadn't recorded it, nothing. And she had already recorded pretty much all of the record. And she's like, "Yeah, they'll be fine." And we go out. She has to read the lyric on her phone. It's that fresh. And by the end of the first chorus, the crowd like erupted. And she already had quite a fan base at that point, and they would come and flood the listening room.
Yeah.
And they ate it up. Everybody ate it up. It went viral, like from the little videos that people were taking that night. We had all these people on Instagram and TikTok singing the song back that had never even been recorded, because they heard the video this one time at the listening room.
How did I not know this?
I have no idea. I tell this story a lot.
I mean, I think I was here that night too. Like, I'm trying to remember. I mean, I come to most of the shows that you and Carly play.
You've heard it a lot. Yeah. And we played a bunch together around that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and that was part of it too, is we were, it was the pandemic. There wasn't a lot going on.
Right.
And by the grace of God, you guys opened your doors, at limited capacity and gave us this. We were, bleeding songs wanting to perform at that point, and that was one of the first ones. And it just went on from there. So by the time that the record came out, it already had like millions of streams. It was really crazy. And it became my second number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We just performed it last week together at the Ryman for the ACM Honors Awards.
Yeah.
We got to honor Ashley Gorley for his 67 number ones. And that's going to be on TV on September 18th on Fox, which is really exciting.
I love it. Yeah. And Carly, this was her second year hosting that, I think, or
this was her fourth believe.
Fourth year. Gosh, time flies.
I know.
I was there for the first one, and it seems like it was 2 years ago, but yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We're really excited.
Yeah.
Proud. I'm proud of both those songs. I'm proud of all the songs we write. Carly is an incredible writer on her own. She doesn't need me. And the fact that she trusts me and has been so loyal, and the fact that our melody is and the way we relate to things just work and just naturally gravitate to one another is just one of the greatest gifts that I'll ever have in this town.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit. How did you feel? Like you've had a lot of great success and a lot of great cuts and TV and film and all of that. But I think it's really cool that one of the people that you really loved as like the 90s diva female artist in Sara Evans. How was that like to have someone that like going back and like when you were kind of getting out of the Billy Joel kind of scene and getting into this country and like really loving this, that one of the people that you really loved and Reba and people like that, like getting songs cut by people like that you just admired so much.
Yeah, that's just such a treat of what I do. I first got to write with Sara Evans with Phil Barton and Victoria Banks, and they're two of my very favorite co-writers, two of my very favorite partners to perform in the round with. We perform here so much. And I first found Victoria on MySpace, which dates me, I know. And she had the big song with Sara, Saints and Angels.
Yeah.
And gosh, that song, it gets me every time. And she wrote it by herself. And I was just such a Victoria Banks fan. And Phil and I had been writing with her for a bit. But the very first song that the three of us ever wrote ended up being recorded by her and Isaac Slade, who's the lead singer of The Fray. So that was really neat. She's recorded a couple of the three of our songs since then, but I think the neatest moment has been she invited Victoria and I down to her home in Birmingham. And Birmingham's one of my favorite cities. It's beautiful. The food is amazing. It's very walkable. And she lives in such a walkable neighborhood that I spent a lot of my 20s visiting my best friend there.
Yeah.
And getting to write songs with her. Her son was about to go away to college, and getting to help her process through that and write a song that she loves and is so proud of and plays at all her shows. That's probably my favorite song with her, even though the others have, maybe gone to record or gone to radio or streamed more.
Yeah, love it. What about all of the songs that you've written? Whether they've been put out to radio or not, do you have a favorite?
I do have a favorite. It's a song I wrote for my son, and it's called I Loved You First.
Oh,
and
such a great song.
That's kind of you. Thank you. I wrote it for him. I hoped that someone else would want to record it. I saw one of the divas doing it, and just didn't happen. And so I finally got brave and decided I was going to put it out this last year. And that's when I got braver and reached out to Rita Wilson and said, "Hey, I know you're a mama. I wrote this song. Can I send it to you?" And she said, "Oh, I'd love to do a duet of this with you." And so we put it out together on Mother's Day. So that's been a really neat trajectory for that song.
Yeah. Brittany just bawled when she heard that. I mean, she loves that song. And,
sorry, Mama.
Yeah. As a parent, it's one of those that, my allergies seem to kick in when I hear it. It's like, I don't know what's going on.
I bawled when I wrote it. I mean, yeah. I feel it all.
Yeah. So good. So good. What else? I know, like, with this new music that's coming out, you have some other things coming up soon. So what can you share about what's happening next?
Yeah, it's a really exciting time. Carly's starting to release new music, which I'm so excited for. She's got an amazing duet with Chris Stapleton out right now. Mm-hmm. And I have a couple songs that she's recorded, and she'll be going into the studio again soon. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm really excited. I get to perform What He Didn't Do again next month at the Ryman, which is just the mother church in Nashville, for the NSAI Awards.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to September 18th. That'll be my first televised performance ever. And I'm playing a bunch of really fun shows this fall. But I'm probably just most excited about this time in my family's life, to be honest with you. My kids are 5 and 8, and they're just at really fun ages. And our daughter just started kindergarten, and we're traveling a bunch together as a family now. They love coming to shows. They love coming here. Ruby does sound check with me, and my Ben would go up with Big Ben up there and show him the ropes. So the listing room has a really special place in my whole family's heart now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, as we wrap up, I always end with the same question. So you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier on about what you would tell yourself. But if you are going back to Minnesota with everything that you've learned and everything that you've been through, and everything that you know now, what advice would you give your 8-year-old self today?
keep going. Don't rush. Trust God. He has a better journey for you than you are currently dreaming up for yourself.
I love it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So much fun.
So much fun.
Yeah, can't wait
Weird
to
being here in the morning, honestly.
I know, right? Yeah, yeah. Well, we will. We'll be excited to get this out and also get back together with you in the next year or two and talk about everything else. Like, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm really excited to start bringing guests back and be like, hey, like
Love it.
2 years ago when we talked about this new music coming out. So yeah.
Love to come back.
Thanks again for the friendship and for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. I'm Chris Blair, and you've been listening to Emily Shackelton. We'll see you next time. This has been an episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information after the show, head over to chrisblair.com. That's where you can find information on these episodes, trailer notes, video links, all kinds of great stuff. Also, make sure to leave us a great rating on iTunes, like and follow us on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. I really hope that you think this show is awesome, and we really appreciate the love and support. I promise to keep gathering great content and continuing to sit down with more amazing songwriters and artists as we grow. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for the support. We'll see you next time.